it's Laura. Welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited that Minhyuk is back with KO. This is a visualizer. I'm not sure how I missed this, but it must have not popped up on my feed for some reason. And it wasn't in like any of my research. So I'm really glad that it popped up today. So let's go ahead and see what this is all about. This is KO. Ooh. Interesting sound right off in the beginning. Ooh.
I came up from the ashes, no handouts, no pressures. Now I'm ready to fly, burning through the mashes. 위기의 순간은 더 날 강하게 만들 뿐더. I represent the OGs, I was built to be classic.
Ooh, I like that layering effect. Ooh. Okay. Excuse me. I love singing Minhyuk. Ooh. I love it in the background. Whatever that electronic. Oof. What a nice pre-chorus. I really like the thick bass too. It's a little distorted too, which is nice. Ooh, that felt shorter this time. Ooh, those little ad-libs in the background. Ooh. Ooh, awesome Minhyuk. Ooh, I like how it just ended. I feel like lately we've gotten a lot of fade outs, and I like sometimes, depending on the type of song it is, I really like when it stops. Everything stops. And I think this is so incredibly nice. I love how different this is from the title track, and I'm so glad we're getting to hear two different sides. I also can see how they're on the same album as well. The deep bass is one of my favorite things that we have. It's a little bit modified, and it gets like distorted throughout the entire song, which I really, really love. And I really like at the beginning, we have like this layered part, a knock. It's a little bit harmonic and that kind of thing, but it feels more like layering rather than harmony. So I really enjoyed that aspect. And there's this electronic part that sounds like distorted singing almost. It's definitely like a high pitch knock is what it's saying. And I really enjoy that aspect too. And it kind of comes through the entire time, which I think is smart. And I love how we had a little bit of the chorus at the beginning, but in a much different way than as you see it later in the song. So I love that aspect. In verse 1, I kind of, based on the introduction, I was like, okay, what are we expecting? Like, I'm not 100% sure. I think it's going to be like this. It wasn't what I was expecting. I mean, it wasn't at the same time. because of just the way the rhythmic element. Something that I think that Minhyuk has always been able to do is create really interesting rhythmic lines alongside his melodic line. And the reason that he's able to do this is because he's an excellent singer. I love Minhyuk's voice when he's a singer, and I also love when he raps because it's just such a difference. And you can tell when he does harmony with BTOB that he can fit a variety of different roles. He has a really wide range in his vocal line, and it depends on what he's singing and where he goes, what he does. There's some, if you guys ever get a chance to like watch some BTOB like behind the scenes, there was a practice, and if you look up like BTOB singing live, or like behind the scenes or something like that, if you look that up, it'll probably pop it up. It's like where they're getting ready before concerts and they're like harmonizing, and it's just Minhyuk just like does a baritone part, and it's like lower than like I was expecting, because I've listened to like a lot of his music, right? And even, you know, before he was a soloist, his voice is just naturally quite high. So, but he did that little baritone part really naturally, and that's when I realized, you know, especially if you compare his rapping voice, which is more in his chest voice, that kind of thing, to his singing voice, they're really quite different. And so I think that's what's really nice in this particular song is you get to see both of those. And in the pre-chorus, I absolutely loved it because, like I said, I love Minhyuk's singing voice, but it also created some tension from what is going on in the verse and the chorus. So it also has some separation within it as well. So it's not only creating tension for when is that going to come back, like the thick texture, but it's also creating this separation of, we're listening to something else. This is different, you know, that kind of thing. And that's something that we just naturally look for in music. It's something that I'm pointing out as, you know, a musician who, you know, focuses on these kind of things, right? But that's why I think it really sticks here. In the chorus, I really love the repetitive, there's this kind of like electronic part in there that naturally just comes out. It's a little more thick. And then we get into verse 2. I love the rhyming that he does in verse 2. There's some repetition in words, but there's also some rhyming there that I really like. It's a little more rhythmic, this verse, than the first one. And there was this kind of piano-esque kind of instrument in there, which was really nice. It just really changed it up. And that's something that I also like to see in music, is a change up. Even though you want things to be similar so people can recognize it easily, it's more fun for me if you have, you know, the verse and then you add some layers to it. And I think that's the fun part about music is, you know, seeing what people do with that. And then it also starts to build and pull away in this verse. I feel like it builds and then it goes away, and then it builds and then it goes away. And I think that's really nice. The second chorus feels a little short after the second verse. But I think that's because they wanted to do a little more with the bridge. I really like the lyric, "Back to represent OGs on track." That was a fun little lyric. And the ad-libs in the background, I can already tell that, you know, it's in this bridge, it's mostly instrumental, right? Which I'm sure live Minhyuk is going to dance to. So that'll be really nice to watch. And then we have that final chorus, really thick, that, like I said, distorted bass comes back, is really nice. There was one more lyric that I wanted to point out in the pre-chorus, was "Every limit I'll break and ignite." I really like that. There's something that I feel like Minhyuk is always trying to constantly prove, and he's always trying to show, is that like he's always going to try new things. He's gonna try to top himself every time. He's always going to say, like, if someone tells him there's a limit, he's like, no, I'm gonna break that. I'm gonna get past that. And so I think that's actually a really positive lyric. I really liked it in this. Actually, I really like this whole song as far as the lyrics go. Very, very, like, even though this is like for me, it felt like a knockout was more like I'm gonna knock it out rather than you're knocking someone out. You know, the the bad parts about me that I'm thinking are, I'm going to knock that out. If people are telling me words and things, I'm going to take that out. That's what it was more to me, rather than like the actual feeling of like knocking someone out. So tell me what you guys thought about this and what's your interpretation on KO. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What was your favorite part of the song or the music video? I also loved the music video, how it was a little hazy, a little gritty, and I liked it being in black and white. That was really nice as well. So tell me your guys' thoughts down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.